The Melvin Metzger Show. Exclusive interviews with distinguished guests and community game changers, trailblazers, movers and shakers. UK 8 p.m., United States 3 p.m. Eastern, and Sierra Leone 7 p.m. on AMZ TV. I'm your host, Mr. Melvin Metzger. Good evening, viewers. My name is Melvin Metzger, and I'm your host of the Melvin Metzger Show. I'm streaming live on Facebook, on the AMZ TV platform, and you can also catch me on School Days Radio. My show is diverse, and we discuss a wide range of topics, including relationships, culture, education, religion, media, food, legal matters, sports, and health. As I engage guests from around the world, they will be able to tell us their stories, their challenges, their successes, and their achievements. In short, I showcase and spotlight individuals, businesses, and organizations in the diaspora and beyond. The Melvin Metzger Show aims to share ideas, inform, motivate the new generation. Please like my show page. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend that the Melvin Metzger Show is live. And my special guest tonight is Mr. Majex Walker, who's a barrister from London. He's my guest tonight on my show. Tonight we're discussing immigration laws post-Brexit. Also tonight, time permits, we'll be discussing employment laws post-COVID. That's if we have enough time. Mr. Majex Walker, welcome to the Melvin Metzger Show.
Hi, Melvin. How are you? Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Immigration
Immigration is a very, yes, thank you. Immigration is it's a hot topic at the moment, and we all knew that there will be significant interest and immediate change to UK employment legislation post-Brexit. In 2019, the Home Office fully opened the EU settlement scheme, an application system by which EU nationals living in the UK could apply to maintain their rights to remain in the United Kingdom. The scheme was open to all applications until 30th June 2021. Also, citizens of EU countries who were living in the UK before the end of 2020 can apply for the EU settlement scheme. That's just a preview of what we'll be talking about tonight. And Mr. Majex Walker is a giant amongst men in his field, in his profession. He's a barrister, like I said, and please tell us a bit about your legal background.
I'm Melvin. Good evening. Good evening, viewers. My name is Majex Walker. And first and foremost, I am a Sierra Leonean living in the UK. And I am a barrister in the UK. I was called to the bar in 2006. And I have an extensive experience in the law. I've been practicing law for the past 15 years now.
15
and
years.
I am someone you can call a common law barrister, meaning I do have a wide range of experience in the law. So I do civil law, general family law, immigration law, employment law, commercial law, and some criminal law, not too much. But I do have a specialist area in general civil law. And over the past years, I've also been lecturing law. I lecture law at many universities. So I do have a versatile background in the law, and I'm very versed in my area of the law. So yeah, it's nice to be on your show. The issue of immigration is a very hotbed since Brexit, and we'll see how we can go into it in much detail tonight, as time permits. But that's me. So I'm a Sierra Leonean first and foremost, and a lawyer, a barrister second.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Could you raise your volume up a bit? Yeah?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Or if you could come closer to the mic.
I'll come closer to the mic, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Mr. Walker, can you talk to us a bit about immigration before Brexit? So at least you can familiarize us or refresh our mind ourselves as to what it was like before Brexit.
Well, the issue of Brexit was about us leaving the EU. Now, being in the EU essentially means we're part of a club, and being in that club means we need to abide by the club's rules. Some of the club's rules essentially means that people in that club in the EU can actually go to another EU country and work without restriction.
Yeah.
They do not need a visa. So while someone from the Commonwealth can come to the UK and need a visa to come here and a visa to work, when we're in the EU, people from Spain, from Portugal, from Eastern Europe who are in the EU do not need a visa to work.
Okay.
So they can come straight in here, look for a job, get a job and stay.
Yep.
Or they can say, we're looking for a job. So even if they don't have a job, as long as they're looking for a job, they can stay.
Okay.
So we had a situation where there was this, put it this way, discrimination
Yep.
towards non-EU citizens, people coming from the Commonwealth, from the likes of Africa, India, Australia. There was this discrimination because we did not have that freedom to just enter the UK and work. We had to comply with so many rules. And whenever there's an immigration quota, we suffer the brunt because the EU countries do not need a quota to come in. So immigration before we left the EU was heavily focused on
Okay.
EU member countries, citizens coming to work and live in the UK.
Yeah.
And also saying that the flip side is we Brits can also go to Spain, to Portugal and work there.
Yeah.
It's an exchange program more or less, but that's how it was structured.
So when you talk about the exchange program, has that all come to a standstill now? It's come to a halt.
Well, unfortunately, once you leave the club, then you can't be bound by the club's rules anymore.
Okay.
We were in this massive club, and the club says, well, hey, people from Spain can come to the UK and
Yeah.
stay, and vice versa, and work, and vice versa. But you'll understand that the Brexit argument was based on this. One of the key Brexit arguments was the issue of immigration.
Yeah.
You know, it was used by some people as a weapon to stoke the fire. And we even had issues of racism going around. So we had a difficult time in trying to separate being in the EU and the troubles of that, because the EU itself is not a wonderful organization. It has challenges.
Okay.
But we had a difficulty because those who were pro-Brexit used that to stoke the fire of certain parts in the UK to say, look, you need to leave so we can control our borders. You would have had the famous phrase, we need to control our borders, we need to control our fishes, and all the rest of it. So we did have that.
Okay. So the main aim of this whole thing was to protect their borders or to reduce immigration.
Well, that's how it was sold to some parts of the UK.
Okay.
So if you look at how the Brexit vote unfolded, right, you can see that places like a big city, London, Manchester, some big cities were pro-Remain. But the red wall, inside the UK,
Yeah.
those what you will call the provinces, they were very pro-Brexit because they were told that, look, if you leave this club,
Yeah.
you can have more jobs, you can have more money because
Yeah.
there will not be many people coming in. So that's how it was structured.
So that's how it was structured. Yeah. When you look at the human rights aspects, the hostile environment, that you got discrimination, like you just mentioned, you've got exploitation, and you've got lonely deaths because of fear, of being deported. How do we prevent such occurrences from happening, from your perspective?
I think it's down to the government to create that atmosphere where people can be confident, and that takes us into one of the things we'll be talking about, the EU settlement scheme.
Yeah.
When the government makes policies, the policies that are made should not be just focused on just tick box exercises,
Yeah.
but to see how individuals will be affected by this, mentally and otherwise. I have clients who were afraid during the whole Brexit argument.
Yeah.
Clients who have the kids who have stayed in the UK for 20 years or so saying, what do I do? Am I going to
Yeah.
be deported? And even if you give them the confidence, when they watch the news and see what people say, They
Yeah.
call you back saying, I'm afraid, what am I going to do?
Okay.
And that's where the exploitation comes in and the discrimination comes in.
Okay, that's great. Um, the government has stated that they'll take a flexible but pragmatic approach towards late applications. That's what they said at that time. But this will not protect people's rights. What do you think about that?
Well, again, one of the things I'll say to anyone watching this show, well, I know we have gone past that stage now because the application deadline is done, but in the legal field, whenever it comes to government issues,
Yeah.
once there's a deadline, meet the deadline. If you do not meet the deadline, then there's an issue. You're already on the back foot.
Yeah.
Now, the government's approach to late applications for the EUSS,
Yeah.
the settlement scheme, it's difficult because there are no set rules. So it's down to the discretion
Yeah.
of the Home Secretary.
Okay.
So it's nothing new, by the way. A third of our immigration rules in the UK, it's based on the Home Secretary's discretion. What Ms. Patel says and what Ms. Patel tells her staff to do.
Okay.
So the Home Secretary has a wide range of discretion. So the pragmatic approach is meant, if used properly, to be able to identify those late applications
Yeah.
that were late genuinely.
Okay.
For example, if somebody was ill, or somebody was a victim of domestic violence,
Yeah.
a victim of human trafficking, and they could not make the application, then when they do make the application late, the Home Office is supposed to look at all those reasons in a pragmatic fashion and give them the chance for the application to go in even though it's late. The difficulty with that is there are no set rules on what they should do. So it's down to them making their discretion.
Volume. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at employment law issues. Reduction in pay, which is part of government legislation, redundancy, forced redundancy, self-isolation, and long COVID. Can you just talk us through, enlighten us on those issues that I've just mentioned, please?
Well, first and foremost,
Yeah.
one of the issues which you will get in these areas is the reduction in pay.
Yeah.
Many companies have suffered a lot.
Yep.
So due to the virus, due to lockdowns, many companies are not making profit anymore.
Yeah.
So they will come to you and say to you, hey, we want to cut your salary.
Okay.
Now, if you are
And
not
whether you agree to not, it's a forced thing.
well, it's not a force per se, right?
Yeah.
But the way it's done,
Yeah.
it's if you don't agree with it, you might be made redundant.
Okay.
You're not obliged to agree to it, by the way. You can say to your company, hey, I'm sorry, my contract is for 30,000 a year.
Okay.
You can't cut it down.
Yeah.
Now, the company can say to you, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Metzger, we don't have a job for you anymore. And if they can show that the job you're doing is no longer needed,
Yeah.
or they don't have the ability to carry on with your position, then you'll be made redundant.
Wow.
So even though it's not fair, but once you're faced with a problem, your employer says to you, I want to reduce your salary,
Yeah.
your back's up to the wall already. There's nothing much you can do.
Yeah.
And there's also the issue of self-isolation when you're ill. Now, the framework of the law says if you are ill, you should be treated as if you are on a sick leave.
Yeah.
And therefore you should be able to get your pay if you are not on a 0 hours contract. So that should protect those who are sick
Okay.
or who are in isolation. The difficulty you have is people who don't want to go into work because they're afraid of catching COVID.
Okay.
Maybe if I'm in an office, a communal office, maybe the gentleman I'm sitting with had COVID and I'm afraid. I'm saying, I'm not going in because if I go in, I might catch it somewhere.
Okay.
And your employer says to you, sorry, you must come in. If you don't come in, I'm going to fire you.
Is there a time frame that you can allow to stay off work due to this COVID?
Well, reasonably, if somebody you're close to has you're working with has COVID, you should be able to isolate within the government's framework,
Mhm.
right? You know, the whole pinging stuff, the 14 days isolation, right? But the issue is if after that you say, well, I can't come to work because I'm afraid. I had a case recently of somebody who said that, and he was fired.
Okay.
And that case is going to the tribunal right now. We haven't finished the case yet. It's going to the employment tribunal. But his employers did fire him because he refused to come to work. He was afraid that he'll catch COVID.
Okay. And then, right, I was also a victim of this COVID. I lost my job. I was made redundant. They gave me, I was paid off, but to find something else to do away from my usual profession. But at least I managed
You
to
should have
find
called.
something. There are
You should
thousands
have
of
called
people
me.
out there without jobs. And
You're right, and it's difficult. Well, it's very difficult because people are losing their jobs,
yeah,
and not everyone has the ability or the financial power to go to a lawyer,
yes,
especially if you're in a low skill job. And when you go to even when you get a lawyer who can do it for you on a no win no fee,
yeah,
you still have to go through the court system, and it takes a long time.
hmm
A typical employment law case based on fair dismissal
yeah,
can go for about a year before it completes.
okay,
So if you're waiting for that money to
yeah,
come through for you to leave,
hmm
well, yeah.
right. So the government also outlined that if an European citizen without status is encountered by immigration officials or enforcement officers, they will be issued with a written notice to apply to the European settlement scheme within 28 days, during which no enforcement action will be taken. Is
Mhm.
that enough time for someone to prepare the application? Is it something that requires a lawyer, or you just fill out an application form?
In all honesty, Melvin, this issue is the government have done well in advertising this point. Anyone who's an EU national living in the UK should be aware of this by now. But say you are not, the form, from what I've seen, I've helped a
Yeah.
few clients, are very easy to fill. You don't even need a lawyer to do
Okay.
it. But if you are, for example, somebody who is not literate or you have educational challenges,
Yeah.
you might go to your CAB, your advice center, and they could help you. One thing about the system we have is very structured. So if you can't afford a lawyer, you can go to your advice center, which is in every town, and go there, and they can help you fill the form themselves. But the most
Okay.
important thing is being able to give reasons why you missed the deadline.
Yeah. Okay. So once you give a very, like, let me just use an easier word. Once you give a very good excuse, you get an extension. A very good reason, you get an extension.
Well, that's where we come with the discretion.
Okay.
And that's where those who are against this um, policy have a point.
Okay.
Because what they're saying is, right, I give a good reason. I'll say I'm sick. And you say, okay, yes. But do I need to submit any evidence? What if I was home, unwell, isolate, I didn't call it my GP?
Okay.
What happens? What if I don't have any evidence to show that I was sick? So the reason why this law is being challenged, the policy being challenged by those people, those who are against it, it's not tight enough. It leaves a lot of scope for the Home Secretary to wiggle out of it. But in the same vein, it leaves a lot of scope for those who are late to go in. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Well, viewers, we're live on the Melvin Metzger show. And my guest tonight is Mr. Majex Walker, who's a barrister in London. And we're here talking about employment law post-COVID, post-Brexit, sorry. We're still going to come to COVID if we've got enough time. Employment law post-Brexit. Another
Yeah.
issue I'd like you to touch on, Mr. Walker, is some of the problems for people with pending application. What happens to their applications? Because as of the
Well,
30th of June, 2021, there was a massive backlog of over 500,000 applications. So what happens to
mhm.
them that are on pending applications?
Well, in reality, The figure, actually, you're right. The figure is 570,000 as the
Yeah,
30th of June. That's a lot of backlog. And in reality, what the government is saying is, look, if you have put in your application, you have nothing to fear.
yeah,
You have something called your certificate of application, which you can
okay,
use to continue your work and to do what you're doing. And even in some instances, if you have your passport, you can
yeah,
actually fly back home and come back into the UK.
okay,
The difficulty you have is for those people to access services,
okay,
accessing the local housing services,
okay,
accessing their GP surgery, looking for jobs. The way the immigration laws are framed in the UK now, you cannot be employed without showing your grandmother's birth certificate. You have to show that you have a right to be here and you have all the relevant papers. Because if an employer makes a mistake, they get fined £20,000.
Can you just repeat that for the benefit of our viewers?
Yeah, essentially, if an
Yeah,
employer
yeah,
employs someone who doesn't have the right papers in the UK, they
okay.
get fined and could be fined up to £20,000.
Wow, that's a huge figure.
So imagine you're an employer now, and somebody comes to you and say to you, I want to be employed for this job.
Yeah,
They are fine. They have all the credentials you want,
hmm,
but then they tell you, oh, I'm waiting for my papers. Now you have a choice to either employ that person and risk, if they're not saying the truth,
yeah,
risk being fined, or say to them, I found somebody else.
okay,
It's about self-preservation. So the difficulty that people in this situation have is their inability to access, or the discrimination in
okay,
them accessing certain things, for example, employment, housing, their GP surgery, etc. They will always have the question of, where are your papers?
hmm,
And they have to explain and explain. And if you meet someone who's not compassionate or understanding, then
yeah,
you have a difficulty there.
okay, wow. Let's move on to education and health. There's a fast track visa scheme for doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. Priti Patel, the Home Affairs Secretary, had an immigration plan to fast track health and visa and care visa. But from a legal perspective, they've also not paid much attention to, there's a black hole because they don't seem to bother about care workers because they said it's not much of a skilled job. So what do you think about that, sir?
I think it's a shame.
Okay.
It's a great shame, because if you want to put in doctors and nurses at a particular high
Yeah.
scale or high
Yeah.
skill,
Hmm.
you should consider care workers to be, if not at the same
Equal.
level,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
very, very close.
Yeah.
Because the service they offer, in many instances, the doctors need them to offer that service.
Yeah.
And I was one of the people in my profession, a few of us, who condemned the Home Secretary
Okay.
for saying in one of these interviews that care workers are not skilled workers.
Yeah.
And I think that was wrong, because care workers do offer or provide a very, very, very particular skilled service, which most of us cannot. Looking after
Yes.
older
Yes.
parents, looking after um, people who are
Exactly.
terminally ill.
Exactly.
So I feel that that part of the law, the policy, needs to be relooked at again. But the difficulty you have with that is, um, that might open a gap for many people to come in, and that's what they're trying to avoid.
But does this mean they will have to do more training or have to recruit more people with not that much skill, but with less experience once they have this job sorted in that area?
Well, that's the thing. The difficulty you have is, we will have to go back again, like we did in the Windrush, and go back and take people from overseas to come and work here,
Yeah.
because the care sector is quite heavily regulated. There's something called the CQC, Care Quality Commission,
Yeah.
and they regulate carers in the UK, just like the NMC nurses, the GDC doctors, and the Bar Council barristers.
Okay.
So you cannot just work as a carer and not being trained properly to do it. You will end up causing more harm than good. You'll end up having difficulties with your patients.
Exactly.
People might end up suffering heavily under your care.
But like you said, these people
So
are vitally important to the system, to the health sector.
they are
Am I
very
right to
important.
draw parallels between the Windrush generation and Brexit?
In some aspects, but I think the Windrush generation are a peculiar generation, because the Windrush generation, most of them did not even know what they were doing.
Okay.
I had a client who came to the UK when he was 6 months old,
Yeah.
and he stayed here all his life. He tried many times to regularize his status, but it's so expensive to do that he didn't bother. He tried to get himself a British passport. It's very
Yeah.
expensive. He didn't bother. Only for him to be told when he was arrested for an offense that, I'm sorry, you don't have a status here. You're going to be deported.
Wow.
And that was a
So
shock for him,
he came
because
here when he was 6 months old,
6 months old, yes,
and he
six
was
months old.
deported.
He's not deported yet, but his case
Okay,
is
the
still being fought.
process is going on. Wow. What does he
Yes,
do in
case is
that
still being
case?
fought.
You as a lawyer, how do you argue his case?
Well, again, that's where you have something called human rights, something called
Okay.
Article 8.
Articulate.
It's called the right to private and family life.
Yeah.
So you're saying to the Home Secretary and to the courts that, look, this gentleman has stayed here all his life. He's been here since he was 6 months old. It will be unfair, unreasonable to remove him from the UK to a country that he doesn't
Yeah.
know anything about. He has no ties. So you have to let him stay in the UK. Some of them, the ones I've heard of, I don't have any client in that light, but some have children,
Yeah.
have wives. I had a client who his case was settled. Thankfully, I helped him do that. He had two estate agents in the UK. He had a building company in the UK, but he was told to leave. It was from the Windrush generation, and we had to
So
go to court and argue his case.
yeah. So does that mean were they told to apply for their stay or their residency, or they were not told? They just thought by coming over here, they automatically have their residency.
In
Is
those
that the
days,
case?
when you come here, Melvin, in those days, you're not told. The immigration rules have now become stricter.
Yeah.
In those days, people who came here in those days will tell you that, look, I just came here, I just sent my passport there. So there's nothing, no warning system to say to them, oh, you need to do this. And some people have jobs.
Yeah.
The jobs they have, they've been there for years. They've never been asked about their papers because everybody thinks they're British. So it came as a shock to somebody to say, actually, you're not allowed to be here. You have to go
Yeah.
back to your country. And he's saying,
Wow.
I'm in my country. I've been here since I was 6 years old. I've been to school. I've been to
Wow.
university here. I'm married. I have my children. Where is home for me?
Wow.
And I must say, in concluding this area, many people actually have been deported back to Jamaica and back to other countries who should not have been deported.
Apart from the lawyers, like your private lawyer, I could go get my private lawyer. And is there an organization that is trying to defend all their deportations? Is there other organization?
There are organizations. To be honest with you, I don't know one offhand, but I will send you so you can update your viewers. But there are organizations in the UK, private organizations, who
Okay.
do help Windrush
Okay.
victims of the Windrush scandal. And some of these organizations do have free lawyers who offer their services to them. And so you don't need to go and pay for a lawyer. If you go to these organizations, they could help you and try to sort your case out if they have the time and the resources. Because these are lawyers who offer their time to do pro bono work.
Okay. But they've got excellent lawyers like yourself who can handle such matters, you know?
Of course, and they do pro
Yes.
bono work, and I do applaud them for doing it. I do pro bono work in other ways, but these guys do pro bono work in the immigration field.
Right. I'm very careful here so I don't say the wrong legal words. As you can see, I'm taking my time, as we spoke about earlier on.
If you say
It's
it,
a
we'll
new
just
area
sue you.
I'm venturing into a new area. So anyway, right.
Yeah.
Viewers, we're live on the Melvin Metzger show. My guest is Mr. Majex Walker, who's a barrister And he practices from Station Court Chambers in Kent, where is the deputy head of the chambers. If you've got any questions, please feel free to send in your questions, and I'm sure he will try to answer some of them. Right, back to you, Mr. Walker.
Yes.
To qualify for a visa, migrant workers who want to move to the UK will have to qualify for 70 points. What does that mean? How do you break that down for us?
Well, you have, it's a point-based system. So you have 70 points, you have the mandatory requirements, you have the points for salary, and you have the additional points. So you have to get, so you have, for example, you have a job offer from a sponsor, an approved sponsor, you have 20 points. So let me just go over that so we understand. Now, to come to the UK as a migrant worker, you need to be employed by somebody who has a certificate to sponsor you, someone who has a license, an employer who has a license.
Yeah.
Now, if you have an employer with a license, they're called approved sponsor. Now, that gives you 20 points. Then if you have a skill at an appropriate level, that gives you another 20 points. And your level of English gives 10 points.
Yeah.
And these are the mandatory points which you must meet. So if you meet those points, 20, 20, 10, you get 50 already. Then you have for your salary. The higher salary you have, £25,000 and above, you have 20 points. 23,000 to 25,999, you have 10 points.
Yep.
And the higher points, additional for people who have qualification like PhD, or they are on a job stage occupation. So, for example, we don't have enough vets in the UK. So, if you're a vet and you have you're employed by somebody who is a veterinary organization, a veterinary surgery, you will have 40 points already. Then if you add your English skills, you get more points. So just to be clear, there are mandatory points which you must have, which is the job offer from a sponsor, the skill level, appropriate skill, and English language requirements. You must have those. Wow. Those are mandatory.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, if you are an illegal immigrant, and I come to you, say you're my lawyer, is that a process you're able to deal with?
Of course. Every immigration case one can deal with.
Yeah.
But no two immigration matters are the same. Every immigration case has similarities. For example, an illegal immigrant has a similarity with another illegal immigrant because both of them are in the UK without papers, without the right papers, without permission to be here. However, their circumstances might be different, and each person's circumstance will determine what application to make for them.
Yeah.
So yes, you can make an application for someone who's overstayed, who's lived here for a long time without papers.
Okay. Right. Well, viewers, you can make a call straight into the studios. The telephone number is 020-727-42699. Please call that number and we can take your questions, and our barrister here can help us with the answers. Right. How regularizing immigration status as an illegal immigrant? If I should come to your office, what's the process again? I know we're still on immigration.
Well, if you come to my office, let's say you come and say to me, look, mister, I have an issue. I've been here for how many years?
Yeah.
I came as a student. Many people come to the UK as a student, for example. They stay in the UK, they study, they get their qualifications. But then one way or the other, they stay, hoping that things can get better.
Yeah.
And they overstay their time. And they become illegal. Okay. So if they come to me and say to me, well, look, I have an issue, I want to regularize my status.
Yep.
I will ask them about their history.
Okay.
What's your history? How did you get to the UK? What have you been doing? When did you become illegal? It's very important. Yeah. Since you lost your legal status, what have you been doing? Have you been contributing to society? Have you been working? Okay. Have you been, because you should not be working because you're illegal, have you been doing, for example, volunteering? Have you been improving yourself?
Okay.
Then, of course, do you have, because most of those applications will depend your private life in the UK and your family life. So I'll ask you, do you have family? Do you have wife and kids? Do you have people that depend on you or who you depend on?
Yep.
And so we'll look at all those factors and give them the right advice.
Hmm.
And for me, normally in my practice, I practice with integrity. If I don't believe you have a case, I'll tell you,
Yep.
so you don't waste your money.
Okay. So, in short, how can I lose my settled status in the UK? What are some of the
Um,
things I shouldn't do
it's
to make it easy for our viewers?
I will say it's difficult because again the Home Secretary has a wide power to strip you of your citizenship or your leave to remain. But one of the biggest things I've seen, and I was involved in a very tough case, is a gentleman who's been in the UK all his life,
Yep.
but he's never ever regularized his status. He's from Ghana,
Whoa.
so he's been here. He's 70 years old, but he's never regularized his status. He's not British; he's Ghanaian.
Yep.
He didn't do that because he was afraid that if he became British, he will not be able to go to Ghana to go into politics.
Okay.
So he stayed in the
So it
he
was
stayed
like
in the
trying to
UK.
kill two birds with one stone.
Indeed. Now disaster struck. The gentleman was home one day, and he opened and someone delivered a parcel for
Yep.
his flatmate.
Okay.
He took the parcel and opened it, and there was cocaine in the parcel. It was a setup. He was arrested and he was put in jail.
Hmm.
And once you are sentenced for 12 months or above for any offense,
Hmm.
there is going to be a recommendation to deport you.
Whoa.
As long as you're not British, even though you have a right to be here, there'll
Hmm.
be a recommendation to deport you. So this gentleman who swears his innocence went to jail, came out of jail, and he was deported to Ghana. He's
So he
been
was
here for over
deported.
60 years. Yes, he was deported
Whoa.
because he was sentenced to 7 years for possession and supply of cocaine, which he said, well, look, it's not me. I'm only taking this parcel
Hmm.
for a flatmate. But that defense fell in court and he was convicted. And once he spent 4 years in prison, when he came out, the
Hmm.
Home Office picked him up and processed him. And because he had no wife or kids, and all his kids were adult children, him and his wife were divorced. He was deported to Ghana.
Wow. Wow. What happens
So,
to his
so
assets in that case? Is like his
his assets stay
house.
here.
Okay.
They're
Do they
here,
seize
and
those? Do they?
no, they
Okay.
didn't seize them because it was not that kind of case. It was not a case where it was not a case of money laundering or process of crime. It was simply a case of handling of drugs to supply. So his assets over here were run by his children. He had children
Yeah.
here, and those kids took over his assets.
Okay.
But because the kids were adult children,
Yeah.
they refused to accept that he needs to stay in the UK with them.
Okay. Wow. That's a sad story.
So back to your question,
Yeah.
what should you do not to get deported?
Yes.
Um,
If you give
the
us
answer
a
is
short guideline.
if you're not yet British, if you don't have a British passport, do your best
Yeah.
to have one,
Hmm.
because with that, it's difficult for them to strip you of your citizenship, except you become a terrorist and go to ISIS.
Okay.
If you stay in the UK, get yourself, and again, I wouldn't say don't get into trouble because anything can happen with anyone, that can mistaken identity.
Yeah. So you walk the straight and narrow.
Sometimes that might not be enough, Melvin. What's enough is get yourself a British passport, because this gentleman will tell you that, look, I was straight and narrow. I didn't do anything wrong. It was a mistake. And look, now
Yeah.
I'm in Ghana languishing. I have nothing in Ghana. I'm languishing. I have so many medical issues, but I don't
Wow.
have the NHS in Ghana.
Jesus. Right. So I'd like to hear your view on this. One of the biggest arguments for leaving the EU, I'm talking about the UK, is that it would allow the UK to set its own immigration policy, which we're talking about. Do you think it's been a success for the UK government?
Well, I think it's first and foremost, it's allowed us to set our policy, which I accept. It
Hmm.
has. Because once we're in the club, you had to join, do what the club says, as I said to you earlier. You cannot be in a club and not do what the club says.
Yeah.
Well, we have set our policy. The success depends on, well, we couldn't judge it now due to COVID.
Yeah.
But once the COVID pandemic is over or it reduces, then
Yeah.
we can actually see whether the points-based system works. Um, on the face of it, it could work,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of challenges because you need to become a sponsor for you to employ people out of the UK.
Okay.
And that comes with its whole burden. You have to have a legal department, a HR department.
Yeah.
The problem with that is for smaller companies or mid-term companies, you have to spend a lot of money on staff
Okay.
and legal advice for you to
Yeah.
get it right.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Majex, Mr. Majex Walker. Right, I've got a
Yes, sir.
question from a lady, Marion Cole. She said, does the sentencing penalty include drink driving? That's part of what you need to do to be deported. Some of the things you shouldn't do.
Well, no, because the drink driving is it's itself a very, very bad thing. I would not advise anyone to do it.
Yeah.
And please don't drink and drive. Um, the sentence, and we're looking at it for example, death by, if you call it death by dangerous driving or
Yeah.
dangerous injury. So I had a client recently who had a driving offense. He was driving his quad bike, and his quad bike hit his car and hit his children. Two of his kids had serious injury, and he was taken to court for causing
Okay.
careless driving that caused dangerous injury. And for that
Okay.
sort of an
Yeah.
offense, you can be sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Yeah.
So drink driving on its own, no. But if the drink driving causes you to have an accident and injure
Yeah.
people and cause them to suffer
Okay.
injury,
Injury.
you can be sent to prison.
Okay. I've got another question from Pasmira Conte. She says, what about European citizen with leave to remain in the UK? What to become a British citizen? A
Well,
European citizen
essentially,
with an European citizen who's trying to become a British citizen.
well, there are two ways here. Some European citizens already have what we used to call indefinite leave.
Yeah.
In those days, you used to have indefinite leave to remain. So some EU citizens have that indefinite leave,
Okay.
and with them, it's easier to go to get your British passport and go through the process and be a citizen.
Hmm.
If you just apply for the EUSS, then you have to wait for that process to finish
Okay.
before you move on to become British. But people who have been in the UK who do have their citizenship, who have their leave to remain already, indefinite leave to remain, or what they call in the EU terms permanent residency,
Yeah.
can apply for their citizenship.
Okay. Right. We're back on Priti Patel because this whole immigration thing and the Home Affairs Secretary. She said the immigration system is broken, but the country isn't. She said we can't fix the system overnight, but we will fix it. What do you make of that statement, Mr. Walker?
Um, I must
I'll
say,
repeat it for the benefit of our viewers. She said
okay,
that the immigration system is broken, but the country isn't. And she said we can't fix the system overnight. That means it can't be fixed overnight, but we will fix it. What's your take on that statement, sir?
it's going to be a behemoth task for any home secretary to fix this immigration system.
Yeah.
Our immigration system has been broken for a long time,
Okay.
and it's been broken through negligence and through essentially carelessness because of our policies we have. We don't even have enough immigration officers to maintain it.
Okay.
Some people will say that it was intentional when Labour was in power to get people to come in. I don't have a view on that, but the system is broken. It is broken.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of illegal immigrants. We do not even know where they are,
Hmm.
but we benefit from them because they pay. Some of them pay taxes,
Okay.
right? But we are afraid as a nation to give them amnesty because any government who gives amnesty to illegal immigrants will be deemed will lose the next election because they'll be thinking, well, actually, we're going to lose, so we're not going to try that.
Okay.
So we need a brave Home Secretary
Yeah.
and a brave Prime Minister who will say, look, we have spent years talking about this immigration issue. We have a lot of illegal immigrants. We don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
Let's set a timeline. Let's say anyone who's been in the UK for 20 years, 30 years, amnesty.
Yeah.
Come out. Let's see what you've done. If you haven't committed any crime, you have good character, be integrated. That's the first step to fixing the system. But hiding behind this whole issue wouldn't help us as a country.
Okay. Right. Viewers, we're discussing immigration laws UK post-Brexit. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to go through employment laws in the UK post-COVID. We'll have to come back for that to have that topic discussed with Mr. Majex Walker, who's a barrister. Mr. Walker, we've come to the end of the program, and
Was fast.
I'd like to have any last words from you, and how can the viewers how can you be contacted?
I thank you very much. I can be contacted by telephone or by email. My telephone number, I can share it to people here.
Yeah.
It's 079
Yeah.
404 61092.
079 404 61092. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, I can be contacted on that. And also, I'll give you my chambers number, and because my clerks in chambers can be contacted. Let me give you my chambers number. Just cut my chambers. And my chambers number is 01322 946 402. That's 01322 946 402.
And it's Station Court Chambers in Kent.
Station Court Chambers are based in Kent, but due to the nature of the work I do, I work countrywide, nationwide.
Right. You've also got, before we come to the end, you've also got a charity. We can't forget about the charity that you're involved with.
Yes, I do. Well, no, I'm a co-founder of a charity called Professors Without Borders. Professors Without Borders. It's a fantastic charity. We began in Freetown in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
It was founded by myself and two friends, Dr. Varian and Princess Tessie. And we set this charity up to provide educational help to young people who've left universities and those who are trying to get into employment, to give them skills that they don't have, skills that are not taught in a classroom. So what we do is every summer we take lecturers from the UK, the USA, all over the world, and take them to Freetown.
Okay.
And also we've been to Bo and team up with IPAM, FBC, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Tourism, teamed up with those ministries to offer classes to develop the human capital in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
We're still doing that in India, in Thailand, in Ivory Coast. We've done that. And,
how long has the charity been going on for? Been running for?
From 2015.
2015. Okay, that's great.
And we do our summer school every summer. And the very first summer school was done in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And it was done at the Prince of Wales School, my alma mater. I have to drop it there.
Okay. Right. So there you have it. The numbers to contact Barrister Majex Walker is 079 4046 1092. Please contact him if you got any immigration matters or any legal issues that you have. I'm sure he'll be able to assist you.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Majex Walker, it's been a pleasure having you on my show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I hope I'll come back for something else.
Yes,
for the employment.
we'll still have part 2 to do.
Thank you very much.
I'll be more familiar with the legal terms by then. The legal term in all
You've done very well, by the way. You've done well.
Also, to my viewers, I must say thank you and good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.